Well, hello to you, and wonderful to talk to all you Wealth partners. I'm not sure how many of you remember, but back in 2015, I'd actually been invited to the very first crowdfunding event in China. It's actually where I met Paul Niederer for the second time, and that's where we met our partners on the ground for Wealth Migrate China. And it was just such an overwhelming opportunity in China, and they flew out and they came to our Wealth weekend, where we actually had it at Henny's farm. And there was just a beautiful energy about it. And they spoke about the opportunity in China and, some pretty big numbers at the time. And we got really excited and we actually, got involved. And as shareholders, we committed to China. And we invested a lot of time and a lot of money actually in 2016 to get China up and running. And we learned some very hard lessons. Someone like Yako went to China 11 times. I went 7 or 8 times. Many others went, between Dolph and Lowe and Paul Niederer, many of us, a lot of resources, a lot of time. What I thought I wanted to share with you very quickly, it won't take long, was I wanted to share with you where we're at with regards to China and the progress that they've actually been making. Now, Ken Hu is leading the Chinese team there, like I said to you, we learned some huge lessons in 2016. We made a lot of mistakes. And really, when in early 2017, Ken Hu took over as the leader of Wealth Migrate China. And since then, we've just seen, steady and consistent growth in what they're actually doing. So he shared with me these research and numbers literally in the last couple of days, and I really wanted to share it with all the shareholders. You can see here, in terms of the number of investors that have been growing. And I mean, look at what's happened, just in the last two quarters of this year, basically, both Q1 and Q2. This is new investors that are actually joining the platform. You can see here the total number of signed up users, the total investors, and the uninvested users. So just in terms of the growth that's actually happening in the last 2 quarters in terms of where we're at. The other thing that I think is really important is if you look at the funds that have been raised per quarter, and you can see here, they 2016, as I said to you, we learned a lot of lessons. And then in 2017, they really started to get going and they started to get some good, consistent growth. And in 2018, we effectively did the restructure. We brought capital from internally within China into the team as well, so that they could really grow. And you can see here what has actually happened now in Q1 and Q2 of 2019, which I think is really testament to the team that is on the ground. You can see the total funds raised in terms of where we actually are and what is taking place in China. And they've done this through growing the network there, growing the brand, and also about growing strategic partnerships. So there's an amazing channel partner that they've built there. And this channel partner, it's interesting, they've got 2 million paid for customers. So not free databases, paid for customers. And of that, something like 86% of them are women, which is amazing. And they like the rich dad, poor dad for financial education in China, primarily for women. And they basically went out. It's taken well over a year and a half. They've flown over to America. Ken Hu and the team, Hank and them, have actually flown over to America with them. They've shown them the different opportunities on the ground. And as they've built trust, they've gone out to their network. And now you're starting to see the results of this. And what I think is so incredible for what the team in China is doing is obviously this is just a drop in the ocean. They've literally introduced, a couple of hundred clients. They've said they want to do over 3,000 clients this year. And like I told you, they've got up to 2 million clients in terms of it. The other thing that's interesting is that as they've gone out and they've really started to build this broad base with regards to the partners and they've dropped the minimum investments down. So you can see that the average investment has been coming down per investor. And when they went out to their network of this women's network, the minimum investment was $10,000. You can see why the average is coming down. Now, that's a good thing. And ultimately, it's what you want to achieve. And you can see what Ken Hu is saying here is that all of them will then wait for their first returns after the quarter, and then they'll start to reinvest. And what they're expecting is to actually hit 2 million in capital raised just out of their current investor base, and obviously as they're growing. But I believe the most important and exciting slide is actually this one. So this is the total amount of equity raised over the different projects. And you can see all the different projects, the different medical buildings, the cypresses, et cetera, et cetera. And what's important is that the orange is the equity in total that was actually raised. And the blue is what has been raised out of the Chinese team. And you can see that it's been steadily growing per deal. But most importantly, if you look at the last two deals, both the Allvest Medical 14 and the Glenridge Medical 22, the Chinese team has actually grown significantly. And actually, they're now over $2 million in terms of Glenridge Medical 22. So although the deal is actually closed, the Chinese team, Wealth Migrate China, is actually responsible for over 40% of the funding in that deal. And I just really wanted to share with the wealth partners how exciting this really is, because it took us a long time. It took us a lot longer than we ever hoped in China, but we always wanted to stick with China because it's got such a significant opportunity. It's the number one country in the world for foreign capital investing into first world markets. And I mean, we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg. And I really wanted to congratulate, Ken Hu and Hank and Bao Ming and the rest of the team there, because they've done such an incredible job in Wealth Migrate China. And, they had tough times last year as we went through the restructure. It was difficult. And really, I just wanted to acknowledge the results that are getting. And for you as wealth partners, I wanted to share this with you, because I think it's really important that you start to understand how this ecosystem is working. We got an event in India in the first week of August. Along with China, India is the second biggest market in the world, where middle class and high net worths and ultra high net worths are actually investing in first world markets. And, we're hoping to take the lessons that we learned in China and be able to replicate them in India in a far quicker way. And Ken Hu and the team there is really a symbol of what is possible with regards to this Wealth Migrate ecosystem overall. And so well done to Ken Hu and the team from Wealth Migrate China. Hopefully you from Wealth Partners are truly excited about what you're seeing here. And I look forward to seeing you next week and talking about this more face-to-face at the Wealth Partner events. And hopefully we'll be having Wealth Partner events all around the world where we can get to meet with all of you face-to-face. But I wanted to share this because it is truly exciting. And, just like what happened with DNRong, that effectively was the offshoot of Lending Club. So Lending Club is $1 billion peer-to-peer lending network. And DNRong was the offshoot in China. And actually DNRong in its own right is $1 billion company. And, who knows, Wealth Migrate China has the potential, in my opinion, to be $1 billion company in its own right, just with the potential that is in China. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed that. And to all the team from China, well done. Really, your hard work over the many, many years is paying off, and we appreciate it. Cheers.